Trauma refers to experiences that cause intense physical and psychological stress reactions. I think the definition that best describes it for me really is thinking about trauma as an emotional wound, resulting from a shocking event or multiple and repeated threatening or extremely frightening experiences that may cause lasting negative effects on a person. They disrupt the path of healthy physical, emotional, spiritual and intellectual development. We know that children who have a secure attachment from birth with their parents or with their carers grow up and have really healthy protection from these types of trauma experiences. But we know that the sorts of children that are referred to us in the Serious Youth Violence programme unfortunately don't come from those secure backgrounds. They often have had experience of childhood traumas themselves. They often come from communities or families that have high levels of disadvantage and economic and financial problems. They may have experienced abuse and neglect. So actually, they haven't had those secure attachments. They've had attachments, unfortunately, to parents who might not been available to them. So this unfortunately means perhaps that they feel anger or fear and they've got an inability to regulate their emotions. So we really need to understand attachment alongside trauma so that we can then work with them effectively. And now, on top of that, maybe they've been exploited, they're in gangs and they're really in fear of their lives, and this further impacts them. And maybe they've had threats which are absolutely unimaginable to the rest of us as adults. So to be able to work with them, we need to understand this and we need to be able to work with them in a trauma-informed way. If we think about it, the way that children communicate to us is through behaviour, and quite often we're not understanding that behaviour. We really need to listen to that language and be curious, and we need to stop labelling children as manipulative or bad or sad. What we really need to understand is that that behaviour is a form of communication, and we need to work with them to understand what it is they're really saying to us. If you think about a child who perhaps is in shark-infested waters, if we think about that shark-infested waters as being the trauma that they're experiencing, they really have to either attack first or be eaten. So therefore, this is what happens to the children that we work with. They hit out, they express their feelings in an inappropriate way, they really want you to go away, except they don't quite put it like that. And we really need to understand that. All of that is communication, and to be able to work with them, we need to be able to do it in a trauma-informed way that builds that behaviour into a form of communication. So how do we work effectively with children? If I give you an example perhaps of a 14-year-old boy that we're working with at the moment, he's been involved in gangs, he's been involved in violent crimes, he's had really lots of foster placements, he's been moved about time and time again, and from the time that he was born actually he's been exposed to trauma. You know, he was exposed to trauma in the womb, his parents have had domestic violence at home, which he's also experienced, so his whole life really has been about him being traumatised. So therefore, to be able to work with him effectively, we need to understand that. We need to really work with him in a way that's empathetic, that we listen to him, that we keep him safe, and that we empower him. You know, if you think about it takes a village to raise a child, then absolutely it takes a multi-agency team that can work in a trauma-informed way to give him the unconditional love and support that he needs to be able to heal from this trauma. As a manager, I know my staff are impacted every day when working on the front line with trauma. They listen to really difficult stories from young people, so often they have disclosures, maybe about abuse, sexual abuse, about how difficult it is with the violence that children have experienced. And so they really need my support, and I need to be able to work with them in a trauma-informed way. I need to be able to give them quality supervision. I need to be able to give them excellent training so they understand what a trauma-informed approach is. They need to have clinical supervision where they can discuss these things that are difficult for them and how perhaps they've affected them. Because I know that for my staff to perform at their best, they need to feel safe, they need to feel supported, and they need to feel listened to. So a trauma approach isn't just about working with young people on the front line, it's about how you manage your staff effectively as well. If we think about the way that trauma affects our hearts, our heads and our brains, we know that then it is a public health issue. So the Relate framework from Public Health supports you to reflect and embed a trauma-informed culture across all of your organisation.